Mom exposes her daughter's sinister, spine-chilling secret hidden for 7 terrifying years. Claire could feel the chill creep into her bones as darkness encased their quiet suburb. The houses, with their pristine lawns and white picket fences, seemed to murmur secrets that gnawed at her sanity. Every night after her shifts, she would tiptoe into Lily's room to check on her, stolen moments that turned into desperate prayers. Please, keep her safe. But even in her dreams, Claire couldn't escape the crescendo of dread echoing through her mind that it had been 7 years since Lily was born, and for each of those years, Claire had seen something gnawing at her daughter. One moment Lily would be lost in fantasy, the next she was a shell, staring out into the void, her silent screams a haunting melody. What was happening inside that head of hers? Claire often wondered, but the truth eluded her. Secrets buried deep, old wounds left unnoticed, pricked at the edges of their world. As summer flickered and the first leaves turned from greens to browns, Claire noticed more changes. Lily's laughter became a rarity, the whispers of her imagination faded into haunting silence. Claire observed Mr. Jenkins, their neighbor who always had a smile too wide and too eager. He volunteered to watch Lily a few times, and while Claire had been grateful, now unease twisted in her gut. Why did he linger so long with her? Why did he look at Lily with those almost predatory eyes? One night, while delving into the depths of her fears online, doing what every anxious mother would do, Claire stumbled upon stories of charming predators hidden in plain sight. With every dark tale, her heart hammered in her chest like the trapdoor of reality slowly opening beneath her. The fear was a tangible thing, wrapping around her throat as if a hand had closed tight around her privacy, squeezing until suffocation felt close. Then, she found the photograph of young Mr. Jenkins, part of a cheerleading squad during the town's annual Harvest Festival. The innocence of that moment brought shivers crawling down her spine. Rumors began to float back, stories about children who had disappeared in quiet neighborhoods, faces remaining forever young in faded flyers. How could she have missed this? Was her daughter just another thread in a sinister tapestry woven through the fabric of suburban bliss? Before she could digest the revelations, a storm roared across the horizon like a beast awakening from slumber, shaking the corners of their home. The knock at the door jolted her to attention. Trembling, she opened it to see Mr. Jenkins standing there, a giddy smile plastered across his face. In his hands was a brightly wrapped gift for Lily. "I thought she'd love this," he chirped, the shadows cast behind him stretching long and ominous. Claire felt the air in her lungs seizing. Doubt gnawed at her. Was she just being paranoid? Just being friendly, she tried to convince herself, but instinct screamed for escape. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With dread heightening, Claire felt the night air grow thick as she could almost taste the terror. What was beneath that seemingly benign surface? She decided it was time for a desperate search for answers at the local library, immersed in the scent of aging pages and darkness. Connections unveiled the haunting truths behind Lily's shadows, a web threaded tightly with Mr. Jenkins' name woven throughout the community's past. As the weight of realization pressed down, her heart raced. Just as she pieced together the flurry of time, a blood-curdling scream pierced the stillness of the night. It was nearby. Claire's breath hitched. Could it be Lily? How deep was this nightmare buried? What awaited if she left the warmth of her house? Nothing could prepare her as she mustered the courage to face the sinister truth of Mr. Jenkins and their shattered worlds. Claire's heart hammered in her chest as she opened the front door, the chill from the storm outside cutting sharply through her. The wind howled, carrying sounds that mixed with her rising panic. Shadows danced across the yard, but she couldn't focus on them. The scream. It echoed in her mind like a haunting melody, as familiar as it was terrifying. Was that Lily? Lily! She shouted, urgency lacing her voice. Taking a hesitant step outside, the darkness swallowed her. She could barely see, but the brief glimmers of lightning illuminated the street, revealing nothing but empty yards and the looming figures of the surrounding houses. The world felt heavy. Each gust of wind chilled her to her marrow. She hesitated, uncertainty gnawing at her. What if it's a trap? The thought clawed at her, but a mother's instinct drove her forward. She had to know. Lily! She yelled again, her voice cracking. She pushed through the fear, navigating through the darkness towards their backyard, a familiar terrain now turned sinister. As she stepped onto the grass, the feeling of being watched prickled at her skin. The neighbor's yard, where Mr. Jenkins often lingered, felt different now. More foreboding. The soft light from a window caught her attention. The flickering glow came from his house, illuminating the silhouettes of familiar furniture that felt suddenly foreign. She caught herself staring, drawn by an invisible thread. "Get it together, Claire," she murmured, shaking her head as if to dispel the haze clouding her judgment. She narrowed her eyes at the trembling shadows. Maybe Mr. Jenkins was just another victim of the storm. After all, the man seemed content to be left alone most of the time. With every step towards her own door, doubt thrummed inside her. She forced herself to turn back, desperate to find Lily. The scream, where did it come from? But then, a series of sharp giggles punctured the quiet. Goosebumps raised on her arms. It was Lily's laugh, piercing through the night air, high and tinkling, twisted with a note of something dark. It didn't sound like her daughter. With trembling hands, Claire crossed the threshold of Jenkins' yard, a cold terror trickling down her spine. Those giggles came again, echoing, mixed with the rustle of leaves as if orchestrated by an unseen hand. Oh God! She froze, her breath shaky. He has her. The realization hit like ice-cold water. Without thinking, Claire sprinted towards the source of the laughter, heart pounding, the shrieks of the wind roaring in response. As she neared the edge of the yard, she spotted the dim light flickering again, this time casting ominous shadows against the thick trees. Lily! She screamed once more, desperation fueling her legs. She leaped past the fence, fear giving her strength. Then Claire saw her. There, in the dim light, was Lily staring up at Mr. Jenkins, who knelt beside her, whispering something, lips curling into that unnaturally wide grin. Claire's blood ran cold as she caught a glimpse of something in Jenkins' hand, something glimmering, sharp. Was it a knife? The sight sent the world swirling before her eyes. Her daughter, confused, enchanted by the man who had turned into a monster in her eyes. No! Claire erupted forward, a primal scream breaking free from her throat. The laughter stopped. Both heads turned toward her. Just then, the sky shattered with a violent crash of thunder. It rolled overhead, echoing her own heartbeat, a chaotic crescendo of sound and horror. As Claire closed the distance, why was her daughter still standing there, vacantly staring? What was she seeing? And why did it look like Mr. Jenkins was beckoning her closer? Panic swelled, drowning her thoughts. Something dark pulled at her daughter. Was it too late? With urgency driving her, Claire lunged forward, but the wind whipped fiercely now, slashing at her face, forcing her to slow down. Lily! Just as she reached for her, another piercing scream echoed through the night. It wasn't from Lily this time. It was coming from inside the house. Fear turned to dread as Claire realized their horror was only beginning. What awaited behind those walls? Could she save her daughter before it all vanished into the darkness? The scream reverberated, clawing its way into Claire's mind, echoing like a death knell. It wasn't a sound associated with joy, but something raw and animalistic, suffused with despair. All thoughts of danger melted away. There was only Lily. She needed to get to her. The shadow of Mr. Jenkins loomed, his figure illuminated briefly by the erratic light flickering from his window. He was still there, kneeling, that unnaturally wide grin stretching across his face. It felt like a grotesque mask held up to the night, the warmth of his demeanor turned cold and clammy. "Lily! Get away from him!" Claire barked, her voice a jagged edge against the whistling wind. But Lily remained unmoving, as if trapped in a trance. The way she stared up at Mr. Jenkins was unsettling, her young eyes unblinking, entranced by whatever sick magic he spun. The role of protector felt monstrous, forcing Claire to confront a heart-wrenching truth. Was her daughter still even in there? Clenching her fists, Claire forced her stride forward, but it was like walking against a wall of ice. "Please, Lily!" Her own heart pounded mercilessly, she felt it in her throat, desperate to break free, and then, clarity struck. The scream. It wasn't just a call for help, it was a warning, a bridge between worlds. Something twisted and dark roamed behind those walls. There were things in that house that no one wanted to acknowledge. Breaking free of her dread, Claire moved past Mr. Jenkins to the front door, each step calculating, purposeful. The storm raged on, branches whipped overhead, threatening to tear her apart. Yet her eyes were locked on the door, the way it sat ajar, an invitation to chaos. "Lily!" She shouted again, urgency bubbling into panic. With each step toward the house, the air thickened. The sense of being watched returned, clawing at her skin and freezing the warmth in her veins. She wanted to look back, to see if Mr. Jenkins was following, but she couldn't risk it. Her focus had to remain on Lily. Claire pushed the door open wider, the creak echoing through the hollow dark. What stood before her? Shadows pooled in corners where the light refused to reach. The once cozy family home felt foreign, alien, tainted by dread. "What are you doing in there?" Claire whispered to the emptiness. It felt wrong, every fiber of her being screamed to turn back. But Lily's pale figure lingered in her mind, pinning her forward. Inside, the air was stagnant, thick with the stench of something rotting. The walls seemed to close in, memories of laughter and warmth warped into screams and despair. "Lily!" Claire called out again, trying to ward off the oppressive silence. A sound came from deep within, the unmistakable giggle of a child, but twisted by something sinister. The laughter echoed from the hall, beckoning her. With every haunted step, the walls whispered secrets of days long gone, pain embedded in the fabric of the house. Fragments of memory hung like ghosts in the air. "Lily?" Claire stepped further in, the laughter growing louder, more taunting. Was it her daughter, or a hollow imitation? As she turned a corner, a flicker of movement caught her eye, a shadow darting past the doorframe down the hall. Claire's heart raced. Please, God no! Her breath quickened, fear grappling with hope. What twisted secret had her daughter uncovered? What terrifying truth would she face inside those walls? Just then, an uncanny whisper coiled around her, chilling her blood. "She's with me now." Claire's chest tightened as the voice echoed down the hall, a voice that didn't belong to Lily. What waited beyond that doorway? "Get away from her!" She screamed, the words tearing from her throat, but deep down, she felt the weight of inevitability. Could she face the unseen horror alone? As her eyes adjusted to the growing darkness, one thing became clear: she wasn't prepared for what she would discover next. Claire's scream shattered the silence, but it was swallowed whole by the sinister presence draped over the house. Her pulse thundered in her ears, drowning out everything but the unsettling passage ahead. The oppressive darkness pressed in, dizzying and heavy, each step reverberating like a death toll. "Lily!" She called again, desperation clawing at her throat. "Please, answer me." The echo of her voice faded away, leaving a suffocating void, and the giggle returned. It twisted like a knife in her gut, too high, too sweet, but dripping with malice. It bounced off the walls, taunting her, daring her to follow. She took a step forward, then froze. Something shifted in the shadows behind her, a chill racing up her spine. Claire turned, but nothing awaited her at the threshold, just the swirling storm that threatened to engulf her. Gathering her courage, she turned back to the darkened hall. Lily. She stepped deeper into the house, urgency flooding her limbs. The floor creaked, groaned underfoot, as if it too carried the weight of memories long buried. But there was no turning back. Every instinct screamed for her to flee, and yet, the thought of Lily trapped in that house drove her forward like a moth to flame. The laughter grew louder. It was no longer a sound of joy, but a weapon that sought to drag her into the depths. With each step, the air became colder, biting at her skin, and hunger clawed within her a monstrous need to know. A flash of movement darted past the edge of her vision. Instinctively, Claire spun around, eyes wide, heart hammering. Lily. This wasn't a game. This was a nightmare, and she was the unwilling player. As she crept further into the house, remnants of childhood stories and bedtime lullabies felt warped, sinister under the weight of this darkness. Claire thought of the nights spent reading to Lily, the warmth of home, now twisted into something grotesque. Where are you? Claire's voice trembled, echoed in the vast emptiness, swallowed by shadows. Claire. The soft whisper wrapped around her like a vice. It was edged with familiarity, yet far from comforting. Breath caught in her throat, she turned, facing the haunted hallway split by walls that seemed to pulse and breathe around her. In the dim light, she saw a figure tiny, delicate standing at the end of the hallway. Lily. Mommy, come play. The words slipped from her daughter's lips the way syrup flows from a bottle, thick with deception. Claire staggered, a bolt of recognition striking her. The sinister laugh erupted again, and, before Claire could blink, the soft figure flickered, distorted in the shadows. It was like watching a mirage dissolve in the heat of a desert. No. This couldn't be real. Lily. With a mother's instinct, she charged down the hall, the light flickering ominously around her. The shadows danced, creating monstrous shapes that wavered and swirled like a living nightmare. The further she went, the more the house seemed to close in on her. Whispers coiled around her ears, haunting, sweetly sinister. Join us, stay with us. Fear stabbed through her. Were they asking her to join whatever horror lay ahead? She lunged around the corner, breath fogging the air, the dim outline of Lily inching away, retreating into the den of shadows. Please, don't go. Claire's voice cracked, her heart racing with panic, but there, just past the threshold, something monstrous stirred. It sighed, a chilling sound, a hunger that promised madness. An intoxicating pull drew her closer. She couldn't let her baby slip back into the darkness. Lily. Just as she reached out, a cold hand wrapped around her wrist, sharp, unyielding. Claire whipped around, eyes wide with terror, heart descending into the depths of despair. She didn't just sense danger, she felt it pressing against her skin, wrapping around her throat until she could scarcely breathe. The voice returning, now layered with dark energy, spread like a web around her mind. You should have stayed away. In the swirling chaos of her thoughts, one truth blared through. Mr. Jenkins had opened a door to something evil. And now Claire had stumbled straight into its maw. What awaited her next could very well consume her entirely, body and soul. Desperation rose as she pulled against the grip, but it felt like a vice, tightening. Would she be able to save Lily before the shadows fully closed around them? With one last scream, she braced herself to face whatever horror lay ahead. As her vision blurred in the encroaching darkness, she wondered who, or what, would greet her at the end of this nightmarish path. The grip tightened around Claire's wrist, a bone-cold vice that elicited a gasp of pain. She fought against it, struggling to free herself from the invisible hold that clawed at her consciousness. The shadows loomed larger, each flicker of dim light casting more grotesque shapes, and the whispers surged, swirling into a chaotic crescendo. The laughter twisted around her, slick and serpentine, wrapping around her throat like the embrace of something alive. Mommy, why are you so scared? A voice like Lily's chimed from the depths, dripping with mockery. The distortion festered inside her, pinching at her sanity. Get away from her. Claire shouted, summoning anger as her weapon. She pulled hard, and the grip loosened just enough for her to break free. Racing forward, she stumbled further into the shadowy maw. The hall felt endless, a labyrinth designed to trap her. The air thickened, each breath a struggle, growing heavier with unspoken dread. "Lily!" She called again, trying to sound brave. Instead, it felt hollow, swallowed by the oppressive darkness. But then a glimmer. A spark of light flickered in the depths. Claire's heart leaped, pulsing with a desperate hope. She lunged toward it, nearly tripping over the rotting floorboards. The shadows recoiled as she approached, almost as if fearing the light. As she drew closer, the light grew more defined. It wasn't just an illusion, it was a door, slightly ajar at the far end of the hallway. Backlit by sickly green light, it beckoned her closer. Claire's breath quickened again, crashing against her ribs. She pressed against the frame, peering into the abyss beyond. What she saw sent an icy spike of terror through her veins. The room beyond was filled with mirrors, dozens of them all reflecting strange versions of reality. Some showed Lily, grinning in the gloaming, while others distorted her image, twisting her features into a grotesque smile Claire barely recognized. "Mommy, come look." The echoes of her daughter's voice came from every direction. Each reflection warped her soul further, sucking the warmth from her heartbeat. Claire realized, with dawning horror, that these weren't just mirrors, they were windows into something dark, twisted. Each showed different moments, Lily's laughter morphing into high-pitched cackles, Claire's own anguished face hardening into stone-like terror. A low whisper slithered around her ankles, an invitation laced with venom. "Why did you come back, Claire? You were supposed to forget us." It was a chorus of voices now, echoing, blending with each other like a choir from hell. "Forget? I would never forget my daughter," she screamed back, voice breaking. The darkness thickened around her, a palpable force that seemed to grasp at her, urging her to succumb to despair. Claire felt the shadows pull at her mind, whispering secrets that twisted into her heart like barbed wire. Was it true? Had she wanted to forget? She shook her head violently, fighting against the pressing darkness. It tightened like a noose around her throat, burning against her skin. Suddenly, a shrill scream pierced through the walls, a cry she recognized. "Mommy!" Claire's heart shattered. It was Lily. In a blind rush of adrenaline and fear, Claire burst through the door, eyes wide and frantic. The room spun, each mirror reflecting a fragmented world burdened with despair. But there, in the center, was a swirl of shadows, a figure writhing small, trapped. "Lily!" Claire called, now truly terrified. And then it hit her like a sledgehammer. The implication of those warped reflections. This was no ordinary house. This was a prison, a cursed realm that fed on family bonds, on love twisted into malice. Desperation ignited within her. "I'm coming." Claire lunged for the shadow, feeling it push back, pulsing with its own heartbeat, pulsating like a dark sun. Fingertips brushed against a soft, familiar shape, hair like moonlight. But the shadows refused to release Lily. Claire screamed out, "I will save you." But who would save her when she was the one stepping deeper into darkness? With a shattering crash, one of the mirrors shattered, sending shards spiraling around her like deadly fireflies. Was it possible that the darkness could be fought? Or was it too late, already winding itself around her soul? And as she grappled with the darkness, Claire wondered if this fight was hers to win or if she would lose Lily forever. A low rumble echoed through the depths, and from the darkest part of the house, the whispers grew louder, insidious. "You shouldn't have come back now. There will be a price to pay." With dread pooling in her stomach, Claire braced herself for whatever monstrous price awaited. Claire's heart raced, panic clawing at her throat. The shadows thickened and twisted, wrapping around her like ropes tightening against her skin. Each breath felt heavy, the air thick with the scent of decay and despair. Her mind screamed for clarity, for a plan, but all she could think was Lily. Her little girl was lost somewhere in this nightmare. "Lily!" The name rang out, a desperate prayer echoing back in the mocking whispers. They taunted her, imitating her voice, layered with layers of laughter that chilled her to the bone. The shattered mirror glimmered on the floor, shards reflecting distorted flashes of her reality. Claire knelt, grasping one piece, its edge sharp as a knife. "I won't lose you," she said, glaring at the hollow reflections. "I promise." The pulsating dark mass twitched, responding to her defiance. Shadow tendrils reached out, ghostly fingers brushing against her leg, pulling her deeper into a swirling black hole of despair. Images flared within her. They were memories, twisted and warped. She saw herself, smiling at Lily on a sunny day at the park. But those happy moments twisted, spiraling until they turned into visions of Claire screaming as the shadows enveloped them both. "I didn't want this. I didn't want this." She cried. Suddenly, a flicker broke through the dark. A fleeting memory. Lily's laughter rang bright, full of light. "Mommy! Look what I can do." The image of her daughter flared in and out, like a dying star. Claire lunged for it, fueled by hope, fear tripping over each other in her stomach. "Lily!" But the dark mass heaved violently, throwing her backward as voices rose in a cacophony of anger and contempt. "She didn't love you enough. She forgot. She had to forget." The whispers sharp as splinters pierced her mind, twisting the knife with every repetition. "No!" Claire shouted, forcing herself up. "You're lying." The ground quaked beneath her feet, and from the corner of her eye, she saw another mirror intact, a clear one, unlike the rest. The surface pulsed as if alive, rippling like water disturbed. Could it be another way out? A chance to see Lily again. Struggling against the force pulling her back, Claire sprinted for the mirror. As she neared, the shadows rushed to intercept, clawing at her, desperately trying to consume her. A kick from her foot sent one of the mirrors crashing, sending a sound that screamed like a banshee. She thrust herself at the clear mirror, reaching through the curtain of darkness. "Lily! I'm coming!" The moment her fingers grazed the cold glass, a surge of energy erupted. It felt electric, like a storm brewing inside her bones. Within the mirror, Lily's shadow flickered, trapped within a bubble of dark energy, her eyes wide with terror, pleading. "Mommy!" Claire felt the very essence of her love for Lily collide with the shadow, a fierce heat radiating as she reached deeper, ready to pull her daughter from the depths. But the shadows twisted violently, thrashing like a wild animal at bay. Realization dawned. This was a lure, a trap. "What's the price?" Claire demanded, the clarity breaking through the fog of terror. "You want something from me. What is it?" The answer was a cold hiss, sliding into her ear like venom. "Your memories, your hope, everything you cherish in exchange for your girl." Desperation erupted into anger. "No. I'd rather burn it all." With a surge of resolve, she plunged both hands into the glass. It shattered under her grip, mirrors exploding in a cascade of glimmering shards. But instead of pain, a warmth enveloped her. Suddenly, the whispers of horror fell silent. "Goodbye, Mommy," the shadows hissed as the last vestiges of Lily's light faded. Claire's screams mingled with the sound of splitting glass, resonating in the hollow air, raw and desperate, but the world spun. Her vision blurred as the darkness begged her, pleading for her to surrender. "Wake up! Wake up!" When she blinked, the darkness ebbed, revealing a new, barren room, familiar but wrong. The walls bled shadows, and Claire's heart sank. She was somewhere else, maybe even deeper. And that when a painted smile on the wall began to twist, morphing into something far more sinister. "Welcome back, Claire." Let us play. Cold horror raced through her. Was Lily just a step away or lost forever in this sinister maze? As the shadows coiled around her like a serpent ready to strike, Claire knew one thing for certain: this was only the beginning. The room pulsed, the painted smile now a grotesque grin that stretched unnaturally wide, blood-red lips curling back to reveal sharp, glistening teeth. Claire's breath caught in her throat. She staggered back, her eyes darting around the walls, half expecting each corner to harbor a lurking creature ready to pounce. "Let us play," the voice dripped with malice, echoing like a twisted lullaby. Shadows writhed, blending with the ominous laughter that reverberated in her ears. It was a sickening symphony, each note crawling under her skin. Claire forced herself to step forward, her heart hammering, a relentless drum keeping time with her fears. "What do you want from me?" she shouted, more defiance than inquiry. "Your little girl is here, but only if you dare to find her," the voice called back, sang and cooed as if tempting a child to take a leap into darkness. The shadows surged, and Claire felt the chill wrap tighter around her. She slammed her fist against her thigh, forcing the terror to dissipate. She needed a strategy, a ray of light to bathe the darkness surrounding her. The last echo of Lily's terrified face lingered in her mind, those desperate eyes calling for her. "I'll find you, Lily. I promise." An old door creaked open in the far wall, beckoning her like a siren. The room beyond swirled with darkness, deeper than the void she'd just escaped. A visceral dread slithered down her spine, but she clung to her daughter's name, repeating it like a mantra. Lily, Lily, it was all she could think, all that mattered in this hell. With shaking legs, Claire stepped through, into the unknown. The air was unexpectedly still, heavy with a stench of mildew and rotting wood. A single flickering bulb swayed overhead, casting long, jittery shadows across the floor. As Claire walked forward, the shadows stretched and shrank, teasing her with glimpses of movement just beyond the edges. "Mommy," the soft whimpery sound echoed somewhere from the darkness ahead. Her heart, already in turmoil, plummeted. "Lily," she called, desperate, her voice barely veiling the trembling fear beneath. "Mommy. Help me." The voice came again, faint but clear, the sound of pure terror breaking through the silence. Claire stumbled forward, fighting against the unseen force that tugged at her, urging her to slow down, to hesitate. A series of doors lined the walls, each featuring crude, peeling labels that read playroom, resting room, forget. The last sent a jolt of fear through her heart. Racing towards the playroom door, Claire jerked it open with a swift motion, the echoes of creaking wood mingling with her rising heartbeat. Inside, the scene was absurd. Toys lay strewn across the floor, cheerful colors in stark contrast to the darkness enveloping them. A soft glow from a single toy, an old Jack-in-the-Box, spilled its flickering light into the void. As she reached for it, dread pooled in her gut. With each inch closer, the sunniest toys shadowed menacing vibes, whispering threats that brushed against her skin. "Play with us," they seemed to say, voices rising in a sinister crescendo. Claire seized the Jack-in-the-Box, desperately twisting the handle, hoping it would reveal her daughter, but it only creaked and groaned, a mechanical symphony out of tune. The lid popped open, and instead of a clown, a burst of haunting laughter echoed, a cacophony that twisted through the air. Behind her, the door slammed shut. She turned quickly, panic clawing up her throat. The air thickened again, and in the dimness, she spotted a shadow lurking. It shifted like it was alive. A dark form emerged, familiar yet warped. "What did you do?" it hissed, a voice so similar yet twisted, echoing Lily's innocence through the distortion. "Lily!" Claire screamed, recognition igniting a spark of hope, but the shadows consumed it instantaneously. The grin grew wider, the laughter raucous, pouring through the cracks of her sanity. "Time to play," the doppelganger taunted, its eyes gleaming with darkness. "Mommy, save me." Claire's world fell apart as the entity lunged. Not without a price. Suddenly, the shadows closed in again, thick and choking, threatening to drag her into an abyss. In that moment, a make-or-break thought pierced through the chaos. What if this was just a game designed to consume her? What if surrendering simply meant losing Lily forever? As the darkness swirled hungrily around her like a cyclone, she stood frozen, staring into the abyss that twisted her daughter's face. Could she break the cycle? The haunting smile slithered closer. Would her love be enough? And just when she thought all hope was lost, a soft voice broke through the chaos, chilling her to the bone. "Mommy, join us." Had she already lost everything? Or was there a way out? Claire's heart raced as the shadows closed in tighter, constricting her like a vice. Panic surged through her veins, but she resisted the urge to flee. The familiar plea of her daughter echoed hauntingly in her mind, intertwining with the sinister taunts of the entity before her. "Mommy, join us." Desperation clawed at her insides. Was that really Lily's voice, or just another sick trick played by this twisted creature? The creature's eyes glimmered with malice, deep set in a face that was so close to Lily's, yet utterly corrupted. It stepped forward, the shadows swirling around it like a cloak. Each movement was unnatural, jerky, devoid of the grace and innocence Claire's daughter had possessed. Claire gritted her teeth, forcing her gaze to remain locked on the distorted reflection of the girl she loved. "You're not Lily. You're not my baby." The air crackled with tension. The entity laughed, a sound that echoed off the rotting walls, layers of darkness mixing with childlike delight. "But I'm all that's left. The game is only just beginning." It threw back its head, the laughter rising like a storm, consuming everything in its wake. Suddenly, the room felt alive. The toys sprang to life, their cheerful colors transforming into grotesque caricatures of laughter. Their movements were quick and jerky, their painted faces twisted in laughter that felt like knives slicing through the air. The walls vibrated with their discordant giggles, adding to the mounting chaos. "Play with us, Mommy," they chorused, an eerie anthem that filled her ears. Claire pressed her hands over her ears, but the laughter burrowed deep within her, full of promises and possibilities. It wrapped around her head, messy threads of fear binding her thoughts in a chokehold. "No. I want to play," she screamed, her voice ripped from her throat, the defiance hanging like a thread in the heavy air. With a sudden burst of longing, she reached for the glimmering shadows, for the one shimmer of hope in the suffocating dark. "Lily! Where are you?" Her voice was raw, barely above a whisper, but the shadows seemed to quiver in response. Then, just like that, they parted. A vision broke through a memory twisted into this darkness. Claire saw a young girl, her Lily, playing joyfully with a doll beneath an oak tree on a sunny day. This peak of their former life hung like a fragile thread amidst the deluge of horror. "Mommy!" The voice was clearer, and for just a moment, the weight of despair lifted. "Lily!" Claire called out, surging forward as if that single name could tether her to reality. But the shadows had other plans. They coiled and snapped, pulling her back, the playful laughter of the toys morphing into menacing growls. No peeking. No escape. The creature lunged at her again. It was upon her in an instant, the distorted visage looming large, fangs bared in a mockery of a smile. "If you want her back, you must play." She stumbled backward, a shiver of terror coursing through her as the temperature in the room plummeted. "What are the rules?" she gasped. "Only those who play can learn." The wicked voice rasped, its breath cold against her skin. "But beware, dear Mommy, every move has a price." Claire stood frozen, her mind racing with the implications. The room felt more like a living entity now, breathing with her fear. With every ounce of courage, she glanced back at the once familiar shadows. Overcoming the panic, she uttered, "Then let us play." As the darkness surged and the laughter reached a deafening crescendo, Claire knew she was diving headfirst into a nightmare with one chance at redemption, one chance to save Lily. But would she lose herself in the process? With that thought lingering in the unfolding chaos, the laugh echoed once more high and shrill, her heart synchronized with the shadows that danced around her, the game now officially afoot. What would she have to prove, and at what cost? The shadows thickened like a storm cloud, torrential and alive. Claire's feet felt glued to the floor, dread gripping her. The toys twisted in a frenzy around her, their laughter warping into shrieks. Each sound clawed at her sanity while the entity's mocking gaze bored into her. "Good choice, Mommy," it hissed, a serpent's tongue flicking out. A flash of a light bulb overhead sparked without warning, then flickered before dimming again. Claire felt her heart quickening, matching the pulsing in the air. "What games do you have for me?" she asked, her voice trembling yet laced with defiance. As desperate as she was, she couldn't look weak. "Not now. First, you must show us your fear." The entity's voice slithered next to her. "That's how we win." Before she could react, the darkness plunged into a whirl, and the room transformed. The walls twisted into a crumbled landscape of childhood nightmares, and Claire felt a lurch in her stomach. Her pulse raced as images of abandoned playgrounds, disappearing swings, and forgotten laughter played in a loop. She saw herself there, but now it was cut from a different cloth of fabric woven with loss. "Remember when you were afraid of the dark?" A soft, whispering voice echoed through the chaos, laced with familiar resonance. It was her Lily's voice, soft and sweet. "You couldn't sleep without the nightlight." "Stop!" Claire yelled, desperation creeping back like a shadow. "That was long ago. I'm not afraid anymore." But the shadows knew better. They beckoned, revealing a mirror fractured and eerie. Claire stepped closer, trembling. Reflected in the shards, she saw her younger self crying for her mother, clinging to a doll her daughter once cherished. And behind her was a looming figure, her own form distorted by fear itself. It was like staring into the face of her worst dread, a reflection forged from shame and regret. "Are you really so brave now?" the entity taunted. "Your past knows your weakness." Shaking her head, Claire tried to silence the rising tide of memories, the fear that she failed to protect Lily from everything, including herself. "No!" she screamed, willing the shadows away, pushing back the flood of brokenness. Resisting the memories was her only lifeline. She chanted Lily's name like a prayer. With that name, the figure laughed. "Lily is gone. Only we remain." Suddenly, the laughter was drowned beneath a cacophony, the sound of 1,000 toys clamoring, their warped voices choking the room. As if cast under a spell, Claire gasped, feeling her resolve waver. She stumbled backward, facing forward towards the figure. The entity snapped its fingers, and Claire was launched into a surreal tableau. She stood in an empty room. Overcoming the silence, she could hear faint whispers, her own voice echoing through time. It grew louder, layering with every shadowy figment created by the twisted entity. "Mommy! Why couldn't you save me? Why did you leave?" The plaintive cry echoed, like nails scraping against soft wood, unbearable to her ears. Claire gripped her head, the anguish overwhelming her. "No! You're not Lily. You can't take her from me." The walls trembled with the passion of her declaration. "Join us!" The shadows howled. She could almost feel them tugging at her edges, costing her moments of clarity. Yet a flicker of the sun burst through the shadows, illuminating the corners of her heart. An idea struck her: if the game demanded proof, perhaps she could use their perception against them. "Your games can't hold me," she shot back, her resolve strengthening. "You feed on my horrors, but I can turn them into strength." The entity recoiled, its laughter trembling. But just then, the floor lurched beneath her, and eyes opened in the walls, hungry and wide. Claire's heart stuttered, she realized she wasn't alone. Eyes sharpened, shadows thickened, and she was suddenly ensnared in their grasp. "What's the price, Mommy?" The voice coiled around her, thick with malice and laughter. As the shadows swooped in, everything grew still. The room resonated beneath her feet, and Claire felt a sharp pain in her chest. Something was being taken from her. With one final glance back at the twisted reflection of herself, she whispered, "I will find you, Lily." And just as she stepped deeper into the void, the darkness roared, thirsting for the fear she still carried. What would be left of her if she failed this game? And what twisted truths waited in the depths? The eerie stillness compelled Claire forward, each step a monumental effort as shadows whipped around her, clawing at her resolve. With each heartbeat, the whispers clawed at her mind, filling the air below the flickering light bulb with distorted laughter. The room pulsated, the walls breathing in sync with her racing heart. It was no longer just fear she was battling, it felt like a living entity, hungry for her spirit, demanding her memories, the moments that made her whole. But as the reality of the entity's demand crashed over her like a wave, an ember of defiance flared within. "You can take it all, but you'll never have her." Claire screamed, the words propelled with the ferocity of her love. In that moment, every toy, every shadow and whisper froze, coils of darkness cascading silently as if they were caught off guard. The twisted entity stared, grotesque features betraying a flicker of frustration. "You think your defiance can save you?" it hissed, and Claire held her ground. "You may twist my past, but you cannot take my will. Lily is my strength. I will find her." With renewed determination, Claire raced through the shadow-strewn hallways, visions of Lily guiding her. Childhood laughter rang in her ears, a ghostly echo that strained her resolve. Fragments of every moment they had shared sparkled in her mind: tea parties, reading stories, and the warm embrace after each long day. Each thought lit a path ahead, dispelling the fog that shrouded her. "Remember me, Lily," she shouted into the emptiness, her voice rippling with conviction, both a command and a promise. The world around her shook, shadows recoiling as if piecing together the warmth of her memories. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. The swirling darkness parted, revealing doorway after doorway, glimmers of light peeking through, each making her heart race. "Which one?" Claire panted, glancing back to see shadows whisper to one another, their malevolence deepening. A low growl emanated from behind her, a promise of pursuit. She grabbed the nearest door, twisting the knob with frantic desperation. As it swung open, warmth flooded out, a stark contrast to the cold grasp of the entity. She stepped through and was greeted with a hazy figure framed in light. "Lily!" Claire screamed, recognizing her daughter in the ethereal glow, encased in a beam of hope. But then a jagged crack of darkness surged across the room, snatching Lily back into obscurity, strips of light flickering and twisting around her like chains. "It's a trap." The familiar whispers echoed in Claire's mind, but she took a deep breath, grounding herself. "I will not let darkness claim you." She lurched forward, thrusting past the silhouettes that loomed like sentries, and with every ounce of love she conjured, she reached for the light. She felt an energy pure, undeniable, a bond that screamed of connection. "I'm here, baby. Just hold on." The light flickered and pulsed, intertwining with her fingers, growing stronger with her determination. Claire's heart surged as more shadows flitted to intercept her, but they gripped at nothing more than air. They twisted, blowing like leaves in a storm. "Let her go!" Claire bellowed, and as if her words were a force, the shadows split like fabric torn asunder. Then she saw her. Lily illuminated, a glimmer of essence amidst the encroaching dark, resilient and shining. "Mommy!" Her daughter's voice rang clear, the melody threading through the darkness like a lifeline. "Come closer." Heart racing, Claire pressed forward, reaching toward Lily. The shadows shrieked, trailing behind her in desperation, but she dove into the light, embracing the warmth that wrapped around her, lifting them both. As they locked eyes, Claire felt everything: the love, the fear, everything she sacrificed, cementing them deeper than the shadows could ever reach. "Hold my hand," Claire urged, and Lily's trembling fingers found hers, firm and steady. The shadows recoiled before them, struggling, their grip slipping away as their light began to swallow the darkness whole. But just as the shadows began to dissolve, the entity materialized, fury twisting its features. "You cannot escape," it howled, piercing through the warmth with venomous breath. "The price must be paid." "No!" Claire shouted, lifting her chin defiantly. "The price was paid the day I became her mother. Love always conquers." With one final plunge of light and selfless love, Claire and Lily burst through the heart of darkness, breaking free like a supernova exploding against the bleakness of night. The shadows shattered around them, evaporating into wisps of nothingness, as a glimmering light washed over them. Claire was enveloped in sweet warmth, her surroundings flickering as colors emerged, vibrant and beautiful their home. Claire awoke in her living room, gasping for air. Sunlight poured through the windows, her heart thudding wildly in her chest. And there, in a blanket fort amid the familiar toys strewn across the floor, was Lily. "Mommy! Look! I made a castle." Lily giggled, blissfully unaware of the darkness just moments before. The warmth of relief filled Claire, and she crossed the floor, collapsing into her daughter's embrace. Tears of gratitude stormed down her cheeks as she held Lily tight, trembling with the gravity of what they had overcome. "I love you, sweetheart," Claire whispered. "I'll always protect you." "I know, Mommy. The monsters can't get us. You're strong." Lily grinned, and for the first time in years, Claire felt the weight of fear lifting. As the chaos faded into echoes of yesterday, Claire knew that the darkness would always exist, lurking at the edges, but together, they could face anything. A truth illuminated even brighter than the sun streaming through the window. Claire pulled back, her heart brimming with purpose. "No more secrets, okay?" she said gently, wiping her tears. "Let us keep each other safe." "Okay." Lily beamed. Claire smiled, wrapping her arms around her little girl. The trauma had woven scars deep in their hearts, but they were whole again, together in their suburban home. And she would continue to fight for light in the shadows, for as long as the sun shone bright. Now that you've reached this thrilling conclusion, it's crucial you subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that await. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us reach even more minds. Flood the comments section with your reactions and wild theories about the ending. Your thoughts matter so much. And for goodness sake, instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to show your support right now. This is the moment. Don't wait even one more second.